Hey, so this is All Tilt. I put out the Rivals of Either 2 workshop mod, Fight Cat, and I kind of just wanted to quickly talk about the how that character was made, and this kind of be like a pseudo tutorial talking about like what's possible in the mod kit and in the engine. This is take 2. There was something really wrong with my mic with take 1, and so I am just recording audio over the footage that I already captured. So here we have Fight Cat. I'll be pressing some buttons on the screen soon, showing off the moves. Basically, Fight Cat is built off of Absa and Clarin and Olympia animations. Those are the 3 characters that have very similar models, skeletons, meshes, whatever it is, and ultimately can be like animation swapped fairly easily. And every other character seems to have issues with animation swapping with Clarin. And so basically I've used animation swap as a quick way to make a custom character with custom animations. There isn't just animation swaps. I also do some stuff that is a little more unique. For example here, I'm showing off the jab. That jab is built off of Olympia's down B, the little punch you do by canceling the attack early. And you can create that punch through in-engine settings. That's not the way I did it, because I was experimenting a lot with what you could do, but we'll go over how you can do stuff like that in-engine later, and I'll show that off. But basically, the idea of this video is I made a character, no Lua scripting, unless you count me deleting some of the Lua that was already bundled with the character that I didn't need anymore. But, no writing Lua code, entirely in Unreal Engine, entirely within the mod kit. This was my first 20 hours with the mod, and with the mod kit, and I just wanted to, first of all, mess around in the engine for a bit, and then after I messed around in the engine for a bit, I restarted and started working on Fight Cat. So it's not really all that easy to actually get to Fight Cat, to actually get to a Clarin mod. Here, you have to import it weird, and there's a guide, and I'll link the guide in the description. Currently here I'm showing off of the attacks. So we saw up tilt, which is Olympia's up throw, down tilt, which is Olympia's down tilt, forward tilt, which is Absa's forward strong. Nair was just Clarin Nair. Down air is Absa down air, but instead of a sweet spot, it's just stronger at the knees too. The back air is the same as Absa down air. Olympia forward air, and then Olympia up air. But it doesn't look like Olympia up air for this up air, does it? It looks completely different. And that is because it is made using Unreal's in-engine animation tools by splicing and editing existing animations. I believe I'll go to that in a moment. And so with these animation tools, I generally would look for animations that I think were close to what I wanted, and then I would start splicing together animations that I needed using a feature called montages. And so in here I have this data folder. This is not something that gets packaged with any of the mods. I've just made my own folder here that I've just put stuff that I'm working on in. And so you can see this AllUR montage file. And I didn't actually need this, but yeah, you can create an anim montage out there and create it. So I didn't actually need this for this. I did need it for other things, but the final result didn't actually need this montage file. Essentially, I am just playing the animation in an arbitrary order. You can use new montage sections to create additional sections, and you can cut and move between the starts of those additional sections in any order you want. And so here, I jump from, I do some work to go from default to end to start in the montage sections to play it in a specific order. This is one that actually does use it. This is a animation that I use for down strong in this mod. This is Olympia's down throw, but in Rivals of Aether, the strong attacks have the whole 60 frame charge animation built in. So I've used montages to first create the raise of the hand, then hold the hand in place for 60 frames by making I took a still frame of this pose and then made it play at 1/60th speed by changing the rate scale over there on the left, and then adding that to in that animation file, then adding it to the montage, and so that's just a still frame for 60 seconds, and then after 60 frames, and after 60 frames it plays the rest of the down throw animation, and that is the down strong. And so learning how to do animation montages is a really quick and easy way to actually make your own kind of cheesy animations. And so you can see the final result here. This is the actual animation file. You cannot use montages as animations. They are basically Unreal files. And so when you record a montage, you can't like arbitrarily record like from frame X to frame Y. You just have to record for a specific amount of time. So generally you have to record for too long. But that's fine, because in Unreal you can trim frames. So you can see here, remove frame 0 to frame 8. So you can go into an animation and remove the beginning, and you can also go all the way to the end and do the same thing. So here you can remove frame 101 to 110. So you can use the red button down there in a montage at the bottom of the window to record the montage and turn that into a animation file. And then you can trim the resultant animation file down to just the frames you want. And so that's a really easy way to actually create custom animations entirely in Engine. Custom is maybe a bit of a stretch because it's basically just the down throw with a pause in the middle, but we do a couple of other slightly fancier things a little bit later. I believe here I'm going to start showing off some of the other moves. I believe most of the remaining moves in the kit. So you can see the animation plays out just like it did, with the pause in the middle, and then it follows up with the chop. But if I don't charge it, or if I charge it less, the chop will come out early, like that. And so you've got this nice two-hit chop, kind of like almost like a fighting game overhead type of move. Yeah, there it is. And so montages are generally one of the best ways you can make a character like Fight Cat if you're interested in doing something like that, or making an Armando clone, or anything like that. Now we're showing off Forward Strong. It has a bunch of momentum, and when you charge it, it goes for longer. This is actually built on top of the Olympia's jab animation played in reverse at like negative 160% speed, and then it goes into Olympia's actual ledge special animation, but only the punch part. So that is a more complicated version of the punch. And of course, we just have Olympia's ledge special as the ledge special for this character as well, because we are Fight Cat. Up here is up strong. This is interesting. That up strong hitbox is not actually attached to Claren's body. It is something called an article. We'll be getting into articles more later, but it's the same type of thing as Claren's side B has here. It's basically the wolf flash instead of the normal side B, and you can angle it. And then up B is just like a punchy up B, and that's about it. Down B is the same as normal. Claren does the down B thing without the sword. I figured Claren could keep it. Throws are all the same because it was just easy to do, and honestly, it still kind of looks like Claren's punching you. Basically, just remove the sword and just made Claren punch you instead. The special still works. You still get plasma effect even though you're punching him. So everything still basically works the same on throws. Okay, so let's look at some of the other back end. So it's here you can see that I've replaced all the animations that I'm concerned about with uh, variants of Olympia's animations. There were some things in the skeletal mesh that had sword effects that are visible that I removed, mostly with rolling and wave dashing. Other animations are just clarins. They're not like super noticeable, so I don't think they matter that much. Everything else is basically the same. I changed a little bit of data to have this version of Clarin have a slightly lower short hop, just because it matched the changed aerials a little better. But other than that, there really weren't any changes to the like the core definitions for Clarin. Everything is basically the same as baseline. Alright, so we're going to also show off a thing here. So for whatever reason, the shield just doesn't import correctly for Clarin. This is one of the things that you need to fix after you import Clarin in. So we have to go to our mod folder, and then we have to find the skins file. Oh, that is the blueprint. That is not what we need. Okay, that's what we need. That's in skins default data. Skin Kalua. Okay. So in here, there's a shield section, and there's a shield mesh, and so that is completely undefined normally. And then there's so you have to get SK character shield in there, and then you have to make sure the shield material overrides are set up exactly the same way as you see them here. If there are other ones that are included or are different, they have to be deleted and replaced entirely with exactly this layout. If it's exactly this layout, it will work. Anything else will be broken. So that is how you're going to fix the shields on Clarin. If you are doing an import of Clarin Lua. If you once you get through that, I think we are going to start looking at some of the attack data that we've done for this character. So some of the attacks are just basically easy copy pastes. We're going to show off the process of that. So it is really easy to clone moves over, assuming you're using a similar move. We're going to go find Olympia's Nair here. Because we are using, as you can see in the aerial animation, we are using Olympia's Nair for our forward air. And so we get, let's just search up there to make it easier. Alright, so we can see here that this is Olympia's actual attack data, and we can actually copy these and paste these into our character. So we're going to break this into two windows to make it a little easier to see what's going on. We're going to expand this one. We're going to expand this one. And so what you can do is you can click the trash can on this move that you're trying to replace the data for. And then you can create indexes equal to the indexes you're trying to copy. And then you can just copy and paste. There's also a right mouse button, left mouse button with shift shortcut. So you can just quickly copy paste. And there you go. All the windows on Clarin's forward air are now the exact same as Clarin's Nair. Just repeat that process for hitbox attributes and hitbox properties, and basically the entire move will be set up. You have to be a little bit more careful with stuff like sound effects, VFX, meshes, that kind of stuff. And if you just copy over VFX, you have to also make sure you copy over the VFX definitions. Just be careful with that kind of stuff, because you don't necessarily want to always copy it over, but sometimes you do. But sometimes you just want to use the type of data from the original character. But that is a very easy way to get off the ground in terms of making like an animation swap character like this. And I guess we'll move on to some maybe a little bit more interesting moves. So this is a, oh no, that's Olympia's up tilt. We need to go to the correct folder, get Claren's up tilt. There we go. So you can see this is built off of Olympia's up throw animation. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, right at the beginning, where it's possible to do a little bit of in-engine magic when it comes to cutting animations. So you can see that this animation starts with a initial startup that's 4 frames long, and so that's the first 4 frames of Olympia's up throw animation. But after this, there's actually a second. You can see the next window string cable goes to startup 2, and that's because we actually skip a couple of frames of animation and go to animation start frame 7. So we've skipped from frame 4 to frame 7. So it skips some of the animation, and then we do this for another 4 frames, and it moves to active. So this goes to frame 11 in active, like as it should be, and then but after active, it goes to recovery. You can see that active starts at frame 11 because it's frame 4 plus 7 frames, and so this actually starts at animation frame 20, which it would normally start at animation frame 13 otherwise. And so the rest of the animation is 23 frames. That's however long we want. So that can cut off the animation early. And we also have ISA at 13 frames to cut off the animation even earlier when you take an action. And so this is a way to make the up throw play way faster. And this lets me take the somewhat slow up air animation, somewhat slow up throw animation from Olympia and turn it into a relatively fast, snappy up tilt or Fight Cat. These windows also determine when the hitboxes come out, so the hitboxes are going to come out on active, and we're going to look at the hitboxes in a second here. So these hitboxes are tied to this active frame. You can see the hitbox windows for fist and body in there, and this is the fist and body hitbox attributes, and so this is tied to the right elbow for the upper hitbox and the root M, which is like your waist. And so the elbow fist hitbox is like the sweet spot, and the body hitbox is the sour spot. And you can see that they're just centered on those bones from the 000 offset variants. So the actual properties, so those two were set to, fist was set to sweet, and body was set to sour. And so sweet and sour are the hit properties, and that lets us actually create our own unique properties for our unique animation. And the rest of this is basically unchanged from a normal up tilt. Alright, so we're going to look at the forward strong, which is the dash punch. This is based off of a modified version of Olympia's ledge special. And so we're just going to click on this to look at this. We'll expand it so that way I can get a better look at the animation. So at the very beginning of the animation, it's actually, I think I mentioned earlier, the jab for Olympia played in reverse very slowly. I made it with a I pieced that together with the end of the dash punch and spliced those two animations together in the editor like I did before with down throw. So you could just, that's the power of creating montages. And so with that montage, I recorded it, and then I turned it into a strong move here. And so in terms of actual code, this has a standard, it only has 1 frame of pre-charge, but most of the startup is post-charge. That's just because I only have the 1 animation frame to work with. So this moves to the charge animation, and then charge will be a standard smash charge, not like a Olympia special charge. So you see it's strong release instead of special release, which is what Olympia's ledge special would be. This does use copied data from Olympia ledge special. You do have to be careful because in advanced properties there can be some sneaky stuff, like toggle ECB active on frame. Was turned on. Gravity was also turned off. So that's basically how Olympia's lead special works. She turns off gravity and turns off collisions until the move finishes. I believe like ledges still work or something. I don't really know how the exact underlying code works, but basically, you know, I had to turn all that off so you don't clip through the floor. That's basically the idea. Post-charge is the rest of the startup. That's initial 10 frames of startup. Also, it's hard to notice, but I did move backwards. There was 60 frames of startup, but that started on frame 55, and now we're in the active. And the active sets the velocity, and so we can also apply velocity modifiers. And so we have 45 base velocity and 60 additional velocity. That means every frame of charge is getting 1 extra velocity. And so this X velocity determines how far the punch goes. This is how we go a short distance with a base punch and a long distance with a charge punch. And so this is like a really convenient setup. There's a lot of different ways to modify how your velocity is applied. There's a lot of different ways to set up the initial velocity and the modifier velocity. There's just a lot to work with. I had issues. So this is set to set velocity, which allows us to add it. I believe if it was constant velocity over the thing, it wouldn't work. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there's a way to make it work, but I will only recommend stuff that I've already tested. So if you want to make a punch like that, that's how it's just setting it up. Now we have just the hitboxes and the standard rest of the properties. There's nothing super crazy with the rest of the move here. I guess that is the rest of the moves that I showed off. The last thing I would like to talk about in more depth is articles. So the last move I didn't show off before was neutral special. And so we are going to show off neutral special now and talk about articles in depth afterwards. Alright, so neutral special is this fireball. It's plasma colored. Also has a bit of a plasma effect, and you can see that on hit, you kind of get like a tipper hit stun type thing instead of the standard burn effect. And so if you want to do any kind of like gimmick or reasonable projectile or anything like that in Rivals 2, you're going to be using an article. There's also another thing that we did with the article, which is this upstrong. So let's get the damage to 0. And so you can see that the upstrong deals 8, but if I charge it, it deals 12. And that was kind of the moment that I knew that this engine was really powerful, because I didn't set that up. That just works. Like, the articles understand what the player is doing, and I know that maybe doesn't mean much to some people, but like the fact that everything works that well out of the box like makes it clear that there's like some serious under the hood work going on, and that this engine is actually pretty powerful without even having to use Lua scripting. And so I'm going to give props to whoever set up the article system, because I do think it is pretty well made. I do think it's pretty powerful, and I do think that kind of power inside of the Unreal editor is going to be kind of like the difference maker for a lot of people trying to like set things up out of the box. Alright, we're going to look a little bit more in depth on how articles actually work now. So let us find Clarin neutral special real quick. And so you can see we're using Olympia's neutral special animation with the ground and air. The window data here, I believe, is just Olympia's. However, I've removed the extra stuff for like Gem Dash and Olympia being able to cancel the movement of the projectile. This is just the core stuff the startup, the like projectile throw active, and then the recovery afterward. That's all there is. That's all I've left in here. That's all I need. I'm just using kind of it as like a simple Hadoken type thing, nothing complex. So we've trimmed it down to the bare necessities. So down here you can see the actual article section with the article creation data. And here you can see the data for the fireball. You can see the initial offset, which is basically where it fires. This is like, you know, this position fires it from the hand, basically. And so let's go actually find the fireball itself. Alright, so here's the fireball. You can see the windows here. We've got the these two indexes are the standard active and like destroy, which is basically just the end of the fireball. You can see that there's no model in the window animation because that's actually Wither Fireball doesn't have a model baseline. The skins do, but it's entirely driven by VFX. We can get the you can see the hitboxes down here, and here's the VFX. And so you can see the fireball, the deactivation of the fireball, which is the end destroy, and the VFX. These are the actual definitions. These are the actual like VFX that are being called by those creation datas. The trail here I've actually replaced with the like plasma effect rather than using the standard fire trail that the fireball uses. Back to the hitbox, you can see that's a plasma hitbox, which is Clarence. It has tipper stun and extra hit pause setup. And so you can see down here the full charge knockback and full charge damage multiplier. This is the kind of setup that I really did respect. I was surprised that things are so well set up already. There's no like additional Lua scripting, there's no coding, there's no setting up your own subsystem for handling projectiles, for handling whatever your character's mechanic is. You can just kind of do it. It's really good, it's really powerful. I think this article system is really like something that I have been very impressed by, just how easy it is to set up and easy to modify. Obviously I haven't created one from scratch yet, so time will tell on that, but for right now I think this is a pretty good system. I think around this point I'm going to pivot to maybe turning on the game and just playing in the background while I just talk about my feelings about the current state of Workshop and like what I think like what I think about the features, what I think about the current state, and like any other additional comments I have. And I'll just play on Training Room here. This is some background footage to maybe not bore you all. So, generally, I think the Unreal Engine, like, blueprints and setups and all that you have available to edit as a baseline are very powerful. There's definitely some complaints from Rivals 1 that I've heard Workshop where like it feels like a million lines of code to set up a relatively simple attack. It's not really a million lines of code because it's just like a bunch of like copy and paste like definitions, like you're just like telling a script to run that, and the whole point of that script just like says make the hitbox appear on this frame or whatever. I've admittedly only gotten like maybe 5 or 10% of the way into a Rivals 1 Workshop mod, not from lack of interest, but more like it was actually something I started fairly recently and just haven't had a lot of time sunk into yet. And so I only know things at a somewhat surface level, but like in this, you have like a real UI, which I think is going to be like really beneficial for people that want to make really simple characters like this. The Unreal Engine power that it itself has to make slight custom stuff is also really powerful. And generally speaking, I think making characters like Fight Cat is like relatively easy and probably much more accessible than Rivals 1 modding. I think it would probably take more effort to make a character like, you know, like a Super Sandbert or something in Rivals 1 than it is to make Fight Cat in Rivals 2. It is really, really easy to just click the buttons in the UI and copy and paste data that you don't really know how to manually define and just do it, right? And just do it. However, there are some issues. So, Rivals 1 is Game Maker. Game Maker is simple. It's sprite based. It's like really there's a lot more people that have the overlap of being able to make at least tolerable sprites and tolerable code than the overlap of people that can do the whole suite of skills necessary for 3D game development. As much as people tote how 3D game development is cheaper for large enough scale projects, for small scale individual people, it is massively more work. And it just could... I think there's a chance that it could seriously like inhibit the long-term like potential growth of Rivals 2 Workshop to where it like might never quite get to Rivals 1 Workshop level just because the amount of work required is so much more immense. Like I genuinely feel like one or two people, depending on their skill set, could probably throw together a Rivals 1 Workshop mod relatively quickly and do it even faster once they have some experience. In general, I feel like you would probably need a team of at least like 5 people or something that are all relatively experienced in their fields already to have a chance of making a like fully custom Rivals 2 Workshop character. Like you probably need somebody who's experienced enough with Unreal to actually implement the stuff that's being made. You need somebody who like can do the hitbox design and Lua code. You need somebody who's making the model. You need somebody who's making... some people that do models just do like models and textures. Some people do models and animations. Some people just really focus on one thing or the other. So you might need like 1 to 3 people just on art. You know, you might have somebody that's making VFX. Like, there are so many things that you need to do to get a character off the ground. And it is just... it's daunting. It is horrifying how much work it's going to be, and I have some concerns about the like theoretical future growth of Rivals Workshop modding. Like with the amount of workload required. I think characters like Fight Cat and future characters, you know, once every character has a Lua counterpart, we're probably going to be seeing a lot of derivative characters that are like pseudo clones. Maybe we'll start getting people that take a character, make like modifications based off of it, and then just make a model based off of that character's skeleton, right? And just make these very, very like derivative characters that are very straightforward. I could see that being something that's very common just because the workload for making a fully from scratch character is just... I don't want to say impossible, but very daunting. But in terms of the actual power behind the editor, it seems pretty feature complete. It seems pretty powerful, but man, you're gonna need a real team, and that's the kind of thing I would be interested in. Like, I do think it would be fun to group up with a bunch of people and like work a couple months on a character, but not everybody is up for that. And I'm not sure what can be done to make the learning curve less steep. Obviously, having the Lua versions of each character will help, because the more characters you can use as a base, the more possibilities you have to, like, I don't know, just make something that somebody feels like they can actually do something with. Like, I don't really know how to phrase it. But maybe somebody has a character and they think that there's no way they can build this character of their dreams unless they have, like, the Forsburn Lua or something, right? Like, they think that there's too much initial work that has to go in, but maybe if they could use Forsburn as a base, they could get the, you know, custom model, custom animations, and do the hitbox work, but they need some of that initial legwork done already, right? So maybe that's like a possibility. In terms of issues, so I don't know if online is even really working yet. I haven't been able to get anybody other than Armando working online. I can't even get Smithy to work online, which is weird because other people seem to. Fight Cat has never worked online. I think it might be related to the bug that causes characters to need to be like loaded in twice or something to work properly. Like you get sent back to the main menu once in Workshop. I've noticed that you don't have to actually try to go into a game. You could like go to the character select screen, pick a Workshop character, leave the character select screen, re-enter the character select screen, and then the second time it works and you don't get kicked out for no reason once. So I don't know if that's helpful to any developer to hear that, but it's something. It's something about loading things twice. If the load issue is related to the netcode issues, hopefully that gets both fixed. I tried to do some debugging to see if it was my fault. Like originally, Fight Cat wasn't actually using their own quote animations. They were just directly referencing Olympia's stuff. And I tried to instead replace that with using their own like mod folder animations instead, and add like 20 megabytes of data to my mod folder for like no reason because it didn't actually fix it. But you know, I tried doing some manual debugging myself and seeing what was potentially making netplay not working. I just couldn't figure it out. Hopefully they figure it out soon. If mods are difficult to like stably get online, that's going to be an issue. I don't know if there's a way for them to design a mode that like runs the game in rollback, like natively, because if it's like possible, then maybe we could like try to find if the character is somehow crashing, like because of like some rollback thing. Maybe like how skeletons and bones are handled on rollback is maybe different than local play. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, dude. But Workshop stability on local being incongruent with rollback is something that is going to have with sorry, not necessarily rollback. Netcode is going to have to be something that's dealt with somehow. So that it is more clear what things are working and what things aren't. I guess I could also think about like what could change to make it more accessible. I don't know if it's like feasible to maybe set up a template where it's like Game & Watch style or something, where like people that are more sprite based can maybe like set something up. Obviously you probably don't have the resources to set up a full character, but I don't know, maybe something that can get like the Rivals 1 Workshop modders over here making Rivals 2 characters could like feasibly be a way to improve accessibility. I don't really know any other way you could feasibly do it outside of some sort of crazy transformational thing. I also have a small issue with like the documentation, like how it's not clear you have to do, like, it's not really like, there's like a little notepad doc somewhere buried in here, but it's not really clear that like, oh, you can go in here and you can make a clone of Clarin by going in the example mods and doing all this, and then you copy paste the resultant folder from Clarin Lua that you import into your Workshop folder, and then now you can make a Clarin mod, and that's how you could make like clones for everything else, because clones are going to be the most accessible way for anybody to mod anything in this game. And like instead there's documentation on how to make stuff from scratch, which is like not very helpful for the early stages of modding and beta, I don't think. Obviously it is helpful for people that want to make stuff from scratch, but like I think a lot of the beginner level stuff is going to be based on characters, and as we add more characters, I think it's going to expand. I guess my last minor gripe is that the day one communication was not great. We did get a second stream as a follow-up, but ultimately it would have helped a lot if there was just somebody in there for like the first, I don't know, 2 hours or something after Workshop release answering questions or something, right? Like maybe that paints a target on somebody's back rather than just like keeping developers silent and using the note board. But I don't think that's going to particularly grow the community or anything like that. It would have helped a lot if we got a little bit of help at the beginning. I think that about wraps it up. Honestly, um, I I guess the only thing is that like this is a lot of stuff for people to take in. If you've been, it's like, can you do all these animations? Can you do all these attacks? Can you do all this stuff? It's like it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think overall it's a good engine. It's powerful. There's hope for the future. I don't think there's a lot of like doom and gloom other than we need more stuff to help getting things working. If you stuck it out to the end, thank you so much. Go play Fight Cat. I guess that's it. Have fun with Rivals Workshop modding. Peace out, y'all.